Yeah, this sucks that she brought this up and I didn't know anything about it. The C-16 bill in Canada just made it illegal to discriminate based on gender identity, and even most conservatives didn't vote against it. Yeah, like that would have been good to know. But I don't know fuck all about Canada's politics. On the everything that I've seen about the no-go zones is that they're bullshit. So I didn't like dig into them much. I didn't think that she'd bring it up, but I would have to like I would have to go read about it, I guess. On a tangential note, you brought up the Israeli-Palestinian conflict during the debate. Honestly, dude, I would probably side with the Palestinians just because Ryan Dawson does. I don't actually know. The way that I think the big quote to describe that is if you spend 1 hour studying the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, you'll see that the Israelis are the good guys. If you spend 12 hours studying it, you'll see the Palestinians are the good guys. And then if you spend any more time studying it, you realize it's a massive clusterfuck. I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is, dude. That's way, way, way too deep. I haven't read into it or studied it at all. Did you also find it weird that Lauren isn't very religious and goes to church? You think it's a weird Canadian thing? Or she probably feels the need to do it because of her political party? I don't know, dude. What did you learn from this debate? Nothing. I need to go and read more about the no safe zones or whatever. The most of the stuff that I know about is about the United States. When I prepared for this debate, I prepared very, very heavily for the economic side of things. How do I explain this? Okay, so one of the things that I think that I do exceedingly well, okay, and I'll be unhumble for a moment, is that I am very, very, very aware of my shortcomings, okay? I know pretty well what I do know, and I know pretty well what I don't know, I think. So let me give you an example of this, okay? You can collect data, okay? And then once you've collected data, this data can be analyzed by a person who is very educated, and then that person can give you their contextualized opinion, okay? This process is very, very, very important, okay? So let me give you an example of this, okay? Maybe you're trying to figure out, is X or Y bad for the economy, right? So you get an educated person to do a ton of research, a lot of data collection. You set up placebo cities and you compare different variables. And through all of this, you are able to come to an understanding because you have the tools required to properly analyze and contextualize this data in order to form an opinion. And then that opinion is something that you then disseminate to the public, right? When I go to research things, I'm looking for this. This is all I'm looking for, okay? Because I know I do not have the qualifications to look at something and go, well, 48% of people come from here, and then make all of these extrapolations off of that data. I cannot do that. I might be able to do it a little bit in the realm of music, okay? If you want to break down, if you want to do analyses of different types of composition, I can give you a little bit of a qualified opinion there because I studied music a lot in high school and I studied it in college. It was my major, right? But that's as far as I would go. Otherwise, I'm relying on the opinions generally of experts to tell me how things play out in the real world because they're capable of taking data and contextualizing it, which is very important, and then giving you an important thing, right? The problem when you argue with a lot of people sometimes is they are very quick to grab this and then give their own opinion. I don't care about your opinion. So when somebody comes up to me and they go, well, if you look at the Pew Research data, 49.82% of Muslims are okay with apostasy. So, and these are Muslims in the West. So why don't you explain that, Destiny? Well, what does that mean? What does that number mean, right? So this is why I respond with something like, okay, well, why is it that 3 million Muslims exist in the United States and half of them aren't killing people for leaving the Muslim faith? What is the answer to that, right? This is where this figure comes in, right? That's why this figure is needed, because that figure is capable of taking all of the data, saying that people have these beliefs and polls, people believe these things, but because of the way culture works, because different households and different mosques and different communities interpret their religion in different ways, and even though they have these ideas, pragmatically they might act in these ways, is capable of giving you an educated response based on their level of academia, their total contextualization and understanding of the problem, and then giving a very good, well-thought out answer that makes sense holistically rather than trying to run and grab one figure. That's why I kept getting upset. I was getting very irritated that she was grabbing like immigration statistics or whatever, right? Like, I don't want immigration statistics. We're not talking about immigration. We're talking about how immigration affects the economy. So I want an economist to analyze this data and then take all of the data on how it impacts the economy, and I want to hear what the economist thinks about this data. I don't want to hear one snippet of data that I don't have the education, and you definitely don't have the education to contextualize and tell me what it means and how it holistically impacts this picture. Do you understand it? This is why academia exists, and this is why people that have these widespread studies are so important, right? Do you understand that? Like, and this is another, oh, fuck. And we're going back to psychology. Does anybody know what I'm talking about here? There's a very specific name for this psychological effect where you are, you're reading a newspaper, okay? You're reading a newspaper, or I've let, oh, you're reading a newspaper and you know something. You know a lot about investing. You're a very, very, very intelligent investor that you go to Wall Street and you make money doing it. So you're an investor and you're reading and you get to an article on investing and you're like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. He's missing so much. This is so stupid. And all of you have done this when something that you like appears on Reddit, okay? You'll see something in the upvoted comments, and you'll be like, wait, what? No, dude, that's what I do. I used to be a skater all the time. The big wheels aren't better than small. Maybe you'll know something, or maybe you're like, dude, I work in lighting setups. I'm a fucking engineer that is involved in lighting studios or whatever. Or, you know, I'm a carpenter. Like, I'm involved in building fucking desks and shit. Or I'm a musician. I know this, right? And what you do is you read that thing, right? And you're like, well, this is ridiculous. Like, that's funny. The guy doesn't really know what he's talking about. And then you go to the next page, and everything you read, you take it at face value, right? There was a specific name for that type of effect. Somebody coined it for having to do with newspapers, I think. Does anybody know what it was called? It's not Dunning-Kruger. It's not Dunning-Kruger. Fuck off. Does anybody know what it had to do with reading a newspaper? And there was this very specific name for this. Gell-Mann amnesia. Gell-Mann amnesia. Is this it? Oh, yeah. This is it. Briefly stated, is it Gell-Mann? The Gell-Mann amnesia effect is as follows. You open the newspaper to an article on some subject you know well. In Murray's case, physics. In mine, show business. You read the article and see the journalist has absolutely no understanding of either the facts or the issues. Often the article is so wrong it actually presents the story backward, reversing cause and effect. I call these the wet streets cause rain stories. Papers full of them. In any case, you read with exasperation or amusement the multiple errors in the story, and then turn the page to national or international affairs and read as if the rest of the newspaper was somehow more accurate about Palestine than the baloney you just read. You turn the page and forget what you know. Yeah. But, yeah, I don't know. It's like, think about it, because we've all done this before, right? We've all done this before. Why is that relevant? I don't remember. What were we talking about just before this? Fuck, I don't remember what we were talking about just before this. There was a reason we went over here. I don't remember why, though. Don't trust anyone, not even yourself. I don't get it. So what you'll read next, you'll believe more because what you just read you thought wasn't true? Wait, what? Wait, did you really not understand that? Is he already suffering from it? Oh, her presenting facts instead of an expert analysis. You're talking about the arguing economics versus cultural. I don't remember. It was somehow related. But basically, fuck, I don't remember why I brought it up. Fuck, I had a reason to bring it up. But yeah, but basically what I'm trying to say is, like, I don't ever want one person to take one fact and argue this and then be like and then try to give me their uneducated opinion when they don't have a background studying this. I would much rather have a person that is very well versed in this area that can analyze all of the data, use their background in studies in academia to contextualize all of this information, and then give me a coherent opinion that then I can decide, do I accept or reject this, and then, you know, for whatever reason. But going to the raw data, you see a lot of this exact same stuff happen as well with climate science, right? A lot of people will say things like maybe instead this is all of the information on climate change, and they say, well, look, global warming is real, right? But maybe you'll get some uneducated fucktard who'll be like, well, actually, I'm actually going to look at this, dude. Did you know that all of our contributions to the carbon emissions in the world, mankind-made contributions, are only 6% of total contributions? Huh. Really makes you think, doesn't it? Some fucking bullshit, dude. Only 6%. We're barely even more than what the fucking environment already is. And you're going to say that we're the primary cause, right? And I have seen this argument given verbatim before. I think I watched Lauren put this in one of her own videos. She specifically said she didn't want to talk about climate change. But I've seen people say this, right? And I was curious about it. I was like, well, that's something they said, right? So then I go and and you read more articles, right? Well, what is the expert analysis on this, right? The expert analysis on this is that the environment has a very carefully regulated amount of carbon dioxide that exists that the environment works to clean up. There are a certain amount of environmental factors on the ground, trees or oceans or whatever, that are capable of absorbing carbon dioxide, and then they give back a certain amount, and this is a very carefully maintained balance. And if you throw out even 2 or 3% more than what it's capable of dealing with, it will throw the entire system to disarray, because that extra amount you're dealing with is an amount that's totally 100%, it cannot deal with it at all. So these massive amounts of pollution being created, even though it only represents 6% of the total ecosystem, is something that it just can't deal with, right? Your body, I don't know if I want to use that analogy, right? Your body might be made of some percentage of water, but just because if you take a glass of water and pour it down your nose and breathe it all into your lungs, right? And somebody comes up to you and say, you're not drowning, dude. You're made up of like 40% water. You've only taken 2% more water into your body. How are you going to possibly say that 2% more can kill you when you've already made of so much of a percentage water, right? This argument is ridiculous, right? And you know that about water because, I mean, like you can observe it and know that it's not true, right? But then when you look at something like carbon dioxide, it's like, oh, well, shit, I don't know. Only 6% more, whatever. Like, I don't know. That's not like a big deal. Like, I don't know, right? I don't know the actual percentage. I hear like we're made of like 80% water, 70% water, 40% water. I don't know. I hear different figures all the time. I don't know what it actually is, but you don't seem to debate extremely educated people, though. It's usually just YouTube personalities, because educated people have no place in public debate. Nobody wants to listen to them or hear about them. People want demagogues. People want demagoguery, and entertainment is usually what people want. Stats and educated people and all that shit is just really fucking boring. Your benching analogy was better. Oh, did I use benching before? Oh, yeah, no, I remember that one. That was a better one, right? You're able to do it. You're the big fucking guy in the black because you finally got that 2-plate bench. You're finally showing off. You're in the fucking gym. You got all your bros huffing and puffing around you, and you're at that 90 degree or less fucking, or more elbow fucking bend, right? You got it, dude. You're benching that 225, right? Oh, you feel so good. And then a fucking bro walks up and he throws 20 pounds more weight onto your fucking thing. And you're like, this is literal. This is your 1 rep max. You've got fucking 20 scoops of creatine flowing through your fucking body, and you're like, this is all you've been preparing to do today, right? And you go to do your 1 rep, and he throws 20 pounds more, and you drop it, and you fucking die. And you're in the hospital, and your bro's like, dude, you're already benching 225. It's just 10% more. Why does it matter, dude? You've already got 225 pounds up there. Why does 10% make a difference? Like, yeah, you had your activated almonds. You were all ready to go. Why haven't those climate change scientists taken the next step and proposed a policy to stop climate change and explained roughly what positive impact their policies would have? Because that's not a science. First of all, I don't think scientists have the intelligence to do it, and they would admit that to you, because somebody that has a PhD studying climate science probably can't give you widespread economic impact of enacting certain monetary policy. And I think that any reasonable person in my chat that has any degree studying anything would readily admit that to you, right? And they're not even embarrassed about it, right? But the point is, they give you the information, and then it's your policymakers that have to enact it and decide what's best. But you can't just ignore their information, right? You're not going to go to a guy with a PhD in climatology and ask him, what do you think are going to be the long-term economic impacts in the United States if we, if we continue to fracture our fracking industry, and if we continue to, decrease our exports? What is our relationship with Canada going to be like if we continually wean off of oil from them, and if their economy collapse? Like a guy that studies, science isn't going to be able to know those answers. You don't expect policy from those people. You can only get guidelines from them, right? So a climatologist might say something like, it would be good if we reduced our emissions. That is something that we need to do. We need to reduce our emissions. Now, how we do it, I don't know. That's a fact that he gives you. Well, then you ask a bunch, I don't know, you throw it out to your public sector, private sector, right? Maybe the government enacts a policy like cap and trade. Okay, well, if you pollute too much, you're going to have to pay for it. And if you pollute very, very little, you're going to get rewarded for it, right? And then at that point, now you've created economic incentive, then maybe the private sector works on it. Maybe engineers go, hey, like, we know how to create something that will produce half the emissions. We know that if we throw catalytic converters on these cars, they'll pass emissions tests. We know that if we use fuel injection instead of carburetors, we can make cars more efficient, right? We know that we can do all of these fucking things, O2 sensors and all the shit on engines to make them run better, right? At that point, then the market starts to make things, right? But all of this is a top-down. It is all a top-down approach, right? Would Tesla exist if there weren't massive economic incentives given to people to buy electric cars, those $8,000+ tax credits in order to do it, and any other tax credits or subsidiaries that I don't know how much they get for developing that technology, but This is the comparative advantage at work. Doctors should not question climatologists. Everyone should just do what they do best. Yeah, sure, to some extent, sure. I think it's always okay to question things to some extent, but I don't want a random dude on a fucking YouTube talk show or on a fucking video game stream questioning like some mainstream scientific thought unless they have like another, you know, leading authority figure to do so. I don't want to hear some uneducated dude's interpretation of, you know, like I don't want to hear Athene's interpretation of the Copenhagen fucking shit or whatever. I don't give a fuck what he has to say about QM or, you know, any of this shit. Like, he's not educated. Why do I care? You're not offering anything new to this field. You admit that this is all pseudo-intellectual? No. I don't engage in pseudo-intellectuality, okay? When you engage in pseudo-intellectuality, it's when you fail to realize your shortcomings, okay? I am brutally fucking honest with what you get on this stream, okay? What I give you is this, okay? If I'm reading about something, I'm giving you the opinions of the people that I've read, and I try to cite them when I can. These are what I have read in this field, okay? This guy says, Borja says that immigration can be, a wash. Card argues that in some cases there aren't even negative effects, right? That's what I'm giving you, okay? And if I'm talking about something that I don't know fuck all about, I'll be the first to admit it, right? We talked about trading earlier today, and I fully admit it. I don't know fuck all about TA or fundamental analysis, and I know that there are people that are much smarter than me that have taken both sides, right? You cross this threshold into pseudo-intellectuality when you fail to realize your shortcomings, right? That's the problem. As soon as I start talking to you like an authority figure on these topics, and I start telling you that different authority figures are incorrect and I know more than them, then we've crossed the threshold into pseudo-intellectuality, right? The inability to realize your shortcomings is what happens to that. Yeah, sure. Dunning-Kruger, to some extent, explains that. Yeah. Oh, sure, Xanthus. Everyone can have an opinion. It's when people inform themselves based on the opinions of non-experts. Yeah, is a big problem. Don't you think that once you learn how to be critical of your opinions in other fields, it holds more credibility? Sure, I would consider my opinions to hold more credibility than the people that I usually disagree with, of course, but I would never put my opinion ranking over any major academic figure in a field. I would never do that, right? And usually if I argue with somebody that has credentials over me, I'm usually, not usually, in every single debate, if I'm arguing with somebody and it becomes very clear that they have the credentials over me, it usually becomes an FAQ, or not an FAQ, but like a question and answer at that point, right? With my debate with Ryan Dawson, right, it was very clear 15 minutes into that this guy knew fucking infinitely more than I did about anything having to do with the Middle East. So I'll just sit there and ask him a bunch of questions, right? When I started to discuss things with Martin Shkreli right at the beginning, I'm not going to fucking argue pharmaceuticals or medicine or whatever with fucking Martin Shkreli. I'll defer to everything with him on that. I'm never going to pretend to know more. That's absurd, right? I'm never going to pretend to know more than him on any of those topics. Yeah, so if somebody has the credentials over me, I'm not going to say. Now, if they claim to have credentials and they say shit that I think is really fucking wrong, I'm definitely going to question it. Like when Martin was saying that there were drugs that treated ASD, which is not true, right? Which I looked up later and I still know it's not true. I don't know why he fucking baited me so hard on that shit. Or like when that one girl from Pol came and claimed that she had a PhD in media psychology, but didn't even understand like how basic scientific studies or processes worked, right? And that at that point, I'll start to get critical and I'll poke and prod based on what I know. And if they don't give satisfactory answers, then I'll be a little bit more critical. But for the most part, if I bring highly educated people onto my stream, it's usually because I'm trying to glean more information from them. All these donations that I've ignored today. Do you think the primary reason for the failures of post-military African American society is due to racism or culture? I have no idea, dude. I don't know. But most psych people don't know how science or stats work. See p-values. I'm pretty sure most psych people will know confidence intervals and whatnot. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's probably a really fucking important part of being a psychologist, is figuring out what information is statistically relevant. Too many people get the title of being highly educated and it devalues the whole thing. Like you said, you can find anyone to agree with your opinion. That's why you have stuff like Brexit. That is absolutely untrue. And that was the exact article. No, it wasn't an article. It was a best of fucking Reddit comment that we read yesterday. That was such a good comment. What you just said was so absolutely fucking wrong. I've never read anything more wrong in my life. It has constantly been the goal over the past year. I hate to point at political parties, but I'll say of the alt-right, to try to give you this impression that everybody is equally credible. That is absolutely bullshit. That is absolutely fucking untrue. That idea that you can go in anywhere in academia and find any opinion you want to support is fucking bullshit. That is not fucking true. There are people that are fucking loonies. There is scientific consensus on a wide variety of topics. To pretend that every source is equally valid is so intellectually dishonest. That's so fucking stupid. Link to the comment. I don't remember what it, I might be able to find it actually. Hold on. Fuck, I'm not going to be able to find it. But that's been a big part of the alt-right narrative, is to push the fake news. This is it. Do I want to read this right now? This was kind of a long comment, I think. I should read this. This is a really, 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 really good comment. Where do you get the information that lets you form thoughts that you then test in debates? Reddit with Google to verify? I think you can Wikipedia almost anything and get a good starting ground. I mean, that's what I did for all of my information on the Middle East now, and I consider myself to be relatively well informed on Middle East things, right? It's literally just Wikipedia, Syrian civil war, Wikipedia that, and then you find some things. If you want to know more about a piece of information, then you Google a name, you find a Frontline documentary, you find different articles written by different people associated with it, right? And then you start to form opinions, right? Typically, after reading for a few hours, you'll get an idea of the picture, and then everything else that you read kind of plugs in ways that make sense, right? Typically, that's how it works when you pick a new topic. You pick a topic, you read some of the wiki. Okay, yeah, reading. I don't know what that dude is. You Google him, you get his story, right? You go back to the wiki, you read. Okay, obviously a lot of this plugs in. Maybe you get another guy, you read about him. This all plugs in here, and usually things, start to make sense. 2/3 of psychology studies are bullshit. Only 36% have repeatable results. This isn't just a problem with psych. Fuck, dude. I don't want to get into this. This is a problem with science in general. There's a very big problem with science in general in that it is very, very, very hard to repeat and verify studies. This is a problem that every single scientific discipline is having huge issues with right now. Because if you want to do a scientific study, the ultimate question is usually, can you get funding for it? There is no funding in repeating other people's experiments. Nobody wants to pay for it. One, nobody wants to read about it, so nobody really wants to publish it. Nobody wants to buy anything. Nobody's interested in it, right? These are huge problems right now with the profit motive in science is destroying the research aspect of scientific studies. It's a very, 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 you mean social science? No, I don't mean social science. In anything that's not being driven by profit, there's a big problem. There's a big problem with finding people to repeat experiments unless you've literally got a company paying you for like a result or something. It's really, really, really hard to do this in a lot. I've read a lot of articles recently over all of the problems in science, replicating studies and whatnot, that nobody wants to pay for it. It's like a really big, problem. Alt-right makes you like alt-wrong. Destiny, do you think I couldn't find a qualified scientist who didn't accept climate change or evolution if I tried? Maybe one or two. I don't think so, but no. But I mean, like when you've got you might be able to find like one or two people, but when the massive scientific consensus says something, I mean, I don't think that finding like one or two off people, no, I don't think says anything. Funding replication studies is definitely a huge issue, but you can't. It's not an issue for sciences like physics. No one is going to replicate producing Higgs boson particles. The focus about it's been there, done that. The methods were reviewed with a fine-tooth comb, and the statistical power of the results is insane when compared to the standards of science like psychology. Yeah, but doing. Oh, this is the coagulation, dude. Do you want to talk about this real fast? I have Discord now. I don't think I'm going to say anything you'll disagree with. The problem is that replicating like a physics experiment under certain conditions is very easy to do, I think, right? Like you have like your methodology listed out and you go to replicate it using the correct tools, and then like everything is very hard, right? Hard science, right? The values are all like exactly measured and everything, ideally, right? And you can do these replicatable experiments very easy. When you're talking about things in like biomed fields, right? Like medicine related stuff, or things like psychology, getting the people for these experiments, doing the setups for these experiments, getting the trials done, like these all require like a lot of work, I think, in terms of gathering people and manpower both to host the experiment and perform it, and then getting the subjects required, and then the work tracking, all these, like these experiments seem to be very, very, very complicated. I'm not trying to downplay like physics or anything, but compared to like doing a test in a lab or something, right? Like Limfeo at Destiny, same thing with the supposed Holocaust. Somebody banned him. Jesus Christ. Oh, I'm sorry. My debate's over. A better way to state that was physics is easier to control the variables. Oh, sure. That's not true. Lab experiments have tons of conditions / are transcribed poorly that is a pain to reproduce the results. Especially true in chemistry, biology. Yeah, but take those same things and try to do it to psychology, right? It would be 10 times more complicated. And it could have such a massive impact on the experiment. Please don't misunderstand. I'm not trying to say that chemistry or physics replication is easy and brain dead and high school students. I know that everything has its own problems, but I think that replicating like medical studies or psych studies are like especially difficult compared to physics or things that could be controlled in a lab. Studies show only 10% of published science articles are reproducible. Biotech company at Amgen had a team of 100 scientists trying to produce findings of 53 landmark articles in cancer research. Only 6 of the 53 studies were reproduced. Pharmaceutical company Bayer. Experimental psychology, only 3 out of 9. Any preliminary estimates on how many Lawrence Southern cultists you converted with this? I don't know. Probably none. I have no hope for anybody anymore. Yeah, I don't know. I need to read more about the ghettos and the no-go zones just so that the next time somebody brings it up, I can conclusively say they're bullshit. Everything I've read makes them look like bullshit. I didn't think she would actually bring that shit up. My culture meme. Did she even concede in the? She wouldn't concede a single point to me. Did she at least concede that the economic argument I made was superior? I don't remember. I don't think she did she? She wouldn't even give that up. I wonder if that publication that said that only 10% of the studies were reproducible redid the study, they would get a different result.